Well, good morning, all. Happy last day of classes. I hope you are having a good end of the semester. I wanted to thank you all again for a great class yesterday. It was awesome to see your ideas and your recommendations as part of your final presentations. So thanks for the good work that you put in. As I mentioned, there's one last remaining assignment in this class, which is the evaluation reports. And so I just wanted to go over what I'm looking for with those. And again, it's going to be a lot of information that you've already thought about. And I'm also interested to hear your reflections about this particular assignment and also the class in general. So let's go ahead and I'll share my screen and we can take a look at what you need to know. So if you go to this week's module in Canvas, you can see here that under May 3rd, there's a link here to the evaluation report. So that's what you'll want to click on. Once you go to here, you'll see all of the information as usual is included here. But again, I thought it would be helpful to walk through the different parts of the assignment and give you a couple examples too of what it is that I'm looking for. So overall, you could see that this is worth 100 points. The format is one document per team. So group assignment, it should be double spaced, really no page limit to this. It's really, as long as you've got the information for each section covered, then you'll be in good shape. And the purpose of the assignment is really just to provide that detailed account of the work that you've done, both on this project and over the course of the last couple months working on this in your group. So as we've done in the past, I would like you to have each section clearly labeled and also to make it clear, who contributed to each section, whether it be one of you or if multiple of you worked on the assignment. Just let me know that, make it real clear. All right, so let's switch over to the slide deck here. And all right, so hopefully you can, let's see, let me swap this out here with our view. Okay, so there we go. All right, so the first thing to know, I've just covered some of these things, but the other thing to know is that the due date is next Wednesday, May 10th. And as long as you submit it to Canvas by 11:59 p.m., then that will make sure that you've got it in before the deadline. So, of course, no class next week, but as long as you get this submitted, then that's your last remaining assignment in the class. Okay, so moving on, the first section of the report is just an executive summary. That can be, if you want to, that page can be single spaced. If you want it to be double spaced, that's fine too. There's really not a requirement other than if you can keep it to one page, that's what I would shoot for. But the things to include here are the overall goal, the main target audience, the main communication challenges, the overall theme and approach, and then also the main strategies and tactics that you guys used in your campaigns. So again, this is a lot of things that you guys talked about yesterday afternoon in your presentations. And so a lot of it is just kind of summarizing it, think high level. You want to explain it in a succinct way. And then just a note there, it's helpful within that executive summary if you can label those different sections, even just using bold text to let me know kind of when you're transitioning from one section to the next. So that's the executive summary. Moving on to the next section. And for this section, I want you to create a flow chart. This is an example of what it could look like. It can look a little different, but this is the general idea. So you want to organize your goals, objectives, strategies, and tactics in some kind of visual format like this, where you're blocking out each of these items and then using arrows to show kind of the overall hierarchy and show the relationship between each of these items. So this is a previous group from another semester, but they did a nice job here. And you can see that with each layer that they've got those arrows that make a clear delineation about where those relationships are happening between, say, objectives and strategies. And in some cases, like you see here, for instance, like objective 2, you can see that it's not just a downward arrow going to strategy 2, it is also relating to strategy 1 and strategy 3, even though those strategies are also supporting objective 1 and 3. So similar to what we talked about before in class, it's totally fine if you have strategies like this, or even tactics that can relate to multiple strategies or support multiple objectives. So the main thing there is just to make that real clear about which strategies, which tactics apply to which objectives and strategies. So this is just kind of general roadmap. If you create something that's like this, that's real easy to follow, then that's really the main idea with the flow chart. And yeah, just a note there, a final note to say, orient this page as landscape. I think you'll find that that's probably easier in your report to lay it out something like this, even if your other pages in the report are designed, more with that that vertical orientation. All right, next section is going to be focused on your strategic thinking. So you want to make sure that all team members are contributing to the research in this section. So if you want to, you can have one person do the writing, and that's fine, but I would like all team members to be a part of doing the research and thinking through together, how that research supports each of the things listed here, which are supporting the objectives, explaining how your objectives realize your campaign goals. Also talk about how that research supports your overall campaign theme and approach. And then lastly, how does that research support your strategies and tactics? So some of this secondary research may be from sources that you've already looked at, or things that you've already reviewed. But there may be some things that you've learned over the course of working on this project where you might need to do a little bit of supplementary kind of secondary research to look at different sources, and maybe those can really help to support and justify why you came up with these particular ideas as part of your campaign. So that's where the secondary research comes into play. Again, we want to use APA style on that. So when you have a finding, just make sure that you're citing your source there in parentheses, and making it real clear how those sources, how those findings relate to these different parts of your campaign. All right, next section is execution. And so I've got a couple examples here to show you. So really, this is just kind of providing a detailed account of what you did for your campaign. And this is where you can get into including like screenshots and really talking about the specific posts from your campaign. So similar to some of your presentations where you're actually like showing these screenshots, I would like you to include the different posts that you did create. So list those there, and then you can kind of see like in this bottom image here, the screenshot, they have their examples visually, but then underneath that, they also have text description that's talking about, when these were posted, and then anything that was notable about, how much attention or engagement it received, and just kind of the general idea of what the posts were, what the messaging was like, what the content was like. And actually you'll have in the next section a chance to really talk about the metrics and the analytics. So you don't have to go into here as much about views, engagement, impressions, all of that, because you'll unpack that in the next section. But you can basically like explain this. I want you to include a timeline of events. So if you have something like they have here with a social media calendar, that's great. I would include that right there as they did, include a visual of that. But then also, however you want to present that timeline, whether it's like they did here, where it's kind of talking through, okay, on this particular date, we shared this post and so on. Or honestly, if you want to create some kind of visual timeline for this and just have like call out sections, I would be okay with that as long as it's organized and easy to follow. And then maybe you don't have to have as much text explaining your overall approach there. All right, so as I mentioned, this evaluation section is next. And a couple of things to note on here. Again, I would like all team members to be a part of contributing to this section. This is where you can get into, restating the campaign goal. And you need to be clear about all the ways that it could be evaluated. You want to talk about those campaign objectives, talk about how you would evaluate each of them. So there are going to be, some metrics, some analytics that you have to rely on, but because of the time constraints and how short of a time we had to run these campaigns in class, that obviously is one of the limitations. And so part of what you're doing is kind of thinking about if you had more time to, create a much longer campaign, or if you were going to go back and evaluate it, what would those things that you would theoretically be doing to evaluate the success? So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be real data that is out there or that you have in hand. It can be just thinking about generally how would you approach the evaluation of those items. And so then I would also like you to include a detailed report on the analytics and metrics that you do have. So here are some examples that you can see there for different types of platforms. Some of you, have some more of these kind of emerging platforms, like TikTok's not listed here. And Discord would be a good example, podcasts. And so I would use whatever data you can find that you have available from these platforms. And if you don't have access to information, or let's say like in the case of a podcast, again, you may not have the actual data that you could point to, but I would like you to basically describe how you would evaluate that if you did have the opportunity to have a podcast that was on for a longer amount of time. And then lastly there, just describe the external factors that could have influenced your campaign's goal, and talk about any challenges you experienced. And this can include things like personal challenges, just like if you all were dealing with a lot of different things and managing the campaign. I know everybody is busy this time of year, but it could also include any kind of external events that were happening that were maybe like related to your particular cause. Maybe there was a big development or things that were happening in the news as a result of current events. And so maybe those played a factor too in just how you were thinking about your goal and how you might have changed it from the outset of what you're originally imagining with that. So that can be pretty broad, can be individual focus, group focus, or kind of larger societally focus with that. All right, and then next section will be the conclusions section. And this is where I would like each individual team member to write your own contribution. Each team member should write about somewhere between 300 to 500 words. And I would like you to describe how you felt about the assignment, what you learned about strategic communications, as well as yourself in doing this, anything that you would have done differently. And then lastly, any other thoughts that are pertaining to the class in general, or the team assignment in particular. So all of that will be really helpful for me and for future iterations of the class too. And then the very last thing, of course, including those references, make sure you're following APA style, and then including those team signatures and the dates right there, just to make sure that I know every group member is signing off on it and feels good about the final submission that you're turning in. So basically that's it. Those are the main requirements. And of course, there's more detail included there in the Canvas description, but please reach out if you have questions, if I can provide any more kind of insights that would be helpful for your group. And hopefully you've got about a week to complete this. So do hope that gives you some time. But again, reach out if you have any questions or need any kind of help on that. So here to assist you guys. So thanks again for a great semester. I really enjoyed this group of students. You all were fantastic about diving in, and the topic was really fun. I'm glad that we got a chance to dive into some of these new technologies and the AI tools that are out there. So just want to say note of appreciation again to you all for the hard work you put in. Congratulations to those of you who are graduating here in a couple of weeks. And if you're not graduating, then hopefully I'll have you next year for either campaigns or some other courses. But definitely look forward to staying in touch with you all. For those of you who are graduating, hope I can see kind of what you're doing in this next chapter. Always feel free to reach out to if you need things like recommendations or references. So with that, I'll sign off, but hope you all have a great rest of your into the semester, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.